because I did not want to know about mental illness and I did not want to know about the challenges that came with it. And yet, because I'd grown up with expressions of mental health issues all around me, I hadn't realised that I'd developed some skills.
Well, everyone, this is our last podcast for 2018. Can you believe it? 35 amazing episodes birthed out of a passion project this year. Thank you so much for being with me along this last year, and I will be coming back in February of 2019 with more episodes for you. But this last episode is one that I've wanted to put on for a long time, and I can tell you right now I had some huge epiphanies after this recording. It's with the beautiful clinical psychologist named Rochelle Masters, and she is one of Perth's most sought-after clinical psychologists. She's the managing director of Masters Psychology & Co., which is a bustling private practice in Perth's northern suburbs. She is just amazing. I love her so much. I saw her speak at an Inspire Collective retreat a couple months ago, and just how she approaches psychology, and especially and particularly anxiety, which is her forte, is so refreshing. It's so relatable. It's down to earth. It's just watering for your soul. And as I journey with my recovery, I realized that anxiety for me personally is something that I need to deal with. And I hope this episode gives you some insight into what people with anxious feelings or anxieties deal with. And maybe it gives you permission to kind of to dive deeper into maybe some stuff that you need to deal with. Again, if you are struggling with any sort of mental health issue, please contact your local hotline that can support you. In Australia, it's Lifeline, and you can ring them on 13 11 14. And just as a little disclaimer, this podcast is not meant to diagnose, treat, or prevent any sort of mental health illness. It's not in lieu of seeing a medical practitioner. So please make sure that you do that if you need extra support. Otherwise, enjoy this beautiful last episode. Have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year's. And I cannot wait to see you in 2019 in February. Bye, everyone. All right, everyone, we have the beautiful Rochelle Masters, who is a clinical psychologist in Perth, which, for those of you who don't know, it's on the far opposite side of Sydney in Australia. When I first moved here, I was like, oh, I got to take another 5-hour flight after LA. This isn't very fun. You're the managing director of Masters Psychology & Co., which now has 2 offices in Perth. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have 3, actually.
3. That is amazing. And I met Rochelle at a creative entrepreneurial conference, and you spoke on this amazing diagram. And I believe it was hope intersecting skill.
Yeah, hope intersecting with observable science is what I normally say. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what we spoke on at that conference, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it was all about this kind of like idea of that and getting into like, your flow and
momentum. Yeah, that's right. It was too.
Yeah. And then I kind of grilled you for a long time. And I was like, I really want to have you on the podcast. And your forte or your focus is anxiety, which I think is such an important topic, especially for women. It impacts women of all ages, all education backgrounds, all incomes, all colors, all shapes, all sizes, all religions, all countries, all languages.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to just, first of all, to say thank you for being on here. I feel very honored to have you here. But just maybe introduce yourself to our audience of who you are and kind of what you do.
Absolutely. Well, it's my privilege to be talking with you today. And yes, I am a clinical psychologist and managing director of Masters Psychology and, based in Perth. So we have about 40 new referrals every 10 days for people requiring mental health care and in a private practice setting. And, it is actually, we really care about providing tangible and meaningful change to areas that need focus and fresh approaches to mental health care. Because if you've ever suffered with a mental health issue, mental illness can be a tyrannical oppressor. And, I feel quite passionately about this work. And yes, My favourite subject is anxiety, which is a bit strange to say. But, I love working with lots of other disorders. Basically, the more complex, the more fun for me.
Yeah.
So,
How did you get into, just very briefly, how did you have an amazing story, because you shared with us when we were at the retreat, and I was like, no, don't stop telling me, keep going. But what do you love about psychology? Is it the idea of giving that tangible and meaningful change for people?
Yeah, it really is. And I'll share with you a little story that I didn't share with you the other day, I don't think. I grew up in the southwest of WA, and I had in Albany is a great little place. And I had an atypical childhood, but it was great, a great childhood. And yet at about 15 or 16, my whole world turned upside down. And, things got really interesting about that time because turmoil hit my family and my world at the hands of mental illness.
Mm.
And I found myself, I'd left home by 16. Well, I was living on my own for a little while, and then living with other families and house sitting and things like that. And all at the hands of some mental health crises that was going on around me. And I really sought help. I didn't know anything about mental illness or mental health challenges, and I went to quite a few different places seeking help. I remember riding my push bike into my town to go to the doctor. I'd never booked a doctor's appointment before. And the doctor said to me, well, I can't help you because I don't have the people that are suffering with me, and so there's nothing much we can do. I went to my school chaplain. I went to a prophet. I went to a bikie. I went to my friends. I went to the local church. I went actually seeking help in a lot of places, and I found that it was at best silence, and at worst
advice.
It was more turmoil.
Yeah.
And I was on my own. So what I did is what we all do when there's pain and suffering, is we run far, far away, and we don't want to know. And I thought that was a great idea because I did not want to know about mental illness, and I did not want to know about the challenges that came with it. And yet, because I'd grown up with expressions of mental health issues all around me, I hadn't realised that I'd developed some skills. And even a heartbeat for seeking help that I needed, but then what I even to this day, what I see. And so I can tell you, and I can promise you, that I do not want to be the pin-up girl for mental health issues. To be honest.
Yeah.
However, do I want people to have better access to better outcomes? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I want tangible, meaningful change? Yes. Is there hope that can intersect with observable science? Yes, there can be.
Yes.
So I'm very passionate about that. And that's probably how I got into it, to be honest, long story short. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, my whole like eating disorder and sharing it and like banging on about rest and restoration and joy and happiness and all of that is for the same reason. I just think if one person is like, wow, I can find a little bit more joy today, or I'm not going to beat myself up reading, 10 Tim Tams today as much as I did the last time, then I think that's kind of, I mean, it's not on the same scale as you, but it's the same hope that we have. And I think it's important. And as a side note too, right? So it's interesting to me, like we could talk about this a long time, but just this idea of accessibility to mental health support is just absolutely crazily critical in this society. And it's really difficult. And even being down here, like in WA, I mean, even at the hospital, sometimes, it's like we don't have a psychologist for this week, or we don't have a psychiatrist this week because the one that we had is on vacation and they couldn't find a locum. And so you have this whole entire region of people who have mental health issues who need to have a trained psychiatrist on the ground. We don't have, and that's a whole other conversation, but I wanted to bring you in today to maybe reach out to someone who's pushing the pram or driving the car and sobbing in the car because they're just so overloaded with anxiety or feelings like they don't have any hope, just to give them a little bit of that. So going really quickly off of that, since you have that experience in what you do and really raising the awareness of meaningful mental health support, why anxiety? What about anxiety is kind of your jam?
I think people misunderstand anxiety, and anxiety can sneak up on you, but it can also present in a myriad of different ways. And then to sort of have this, what I like to call an alarm system, go off in your brain and nervous system and not know how to switch it off is very confronting. And anxiety, because it is treatable, and yet it requires a lot of education, actually, to learn about what you need, your unique PIN code, if you like, to turn off your own anxiety alarm system if you happen to have activated it, if I can use that language.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's like good, like everyday kind of language.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me then, let's do this. So you had said anxiety is kind of misunderstood. It's not defined well. It's kind of like, I think people either maybe kind of it's blasé, or people they might actually have anxiety and they don't understand because they don't want to be labeled as someone who has an anxiety issue or an anxiety disorder. So just like the brass tacks, what is anxiety?
Beautiful. I'm so glad you asked. My favorite thing to talk about. So in our brain, each side just above our ears is a cluster of cells. Yep, you do the actions. I'll do the actions. I don't think anyone can see but us.
No, they can't. So if you're driving, like right above you.
It is like an inbuilt alarm system. You're meant to have it. You're born with it. And you get a standard edition when you're born. So you actually get this inbuilt alarm system that's meant to activate and fire when you are under threat. So we need it. We need our alarm system. We need anxiety, if you like. Anxiety is a big umbrella term, but we need that alarm system to go off.
Yeah.
And it is connected to your nervous system. So there are all kinds of changes and all kinds of ways that this alarm system works, basically. And so with this alarm system, there are times for which it activates when there's no need for it to activate.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we call it anxiety. It's such a big, broad term.
Yeah,
but what it really means is that each of us have, if you like, a bit like a ringtone to that alarm system. And we've got to work out what ringtone we have. If you suffer with anxiety, for example, it might be in the version of or express itself like panic. You start having panic attacks. Or not at all. It might be more like hair pulling. You pull at your hair. Or not. You might have disordered eating. That can be an expression of anxiety.
Right.
Or not. You might have OCD. You might have dissociation. Or not. So that what I'm saying is there's different ringtones.
Mm-hmm.
And what we need to do is, if you happen to have your anxiety alarm system activated, it's set off, and we need to find out what expression you have. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, as an extra special feature,
I love how you're saying this so beautifully.
I feel like I'm selling it. Like,
it's like, ooh, I want a ringtone. I've got a special ringtone. I want the extra double one.
Sometimes you can get the bundle. So you can get panic and OCD.
Yeah.
Or you can hair pull and have, OCD rituals. Or you can have panic and an eating disorder, or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I don't think, just really quickly, when I was thinking about the ringtone, like looking back, it's taken me so long, so freaking long, and so much work to like know that trigger. And it still takes so much effort to be like, oh shit, here it goes again. And it's almost like you learn, like it might go to like level 10, whereas last time it was level 15. So then you're like learning how to figure it out when it's like at level 2. But I swear to God, I probably started at like a level 20,000.
Totally. It is when you set off your alarm system and your nervous system, honestly, your body it thinks that it's under threat. And every signal it receives it reinforces it.
Yeah.
And we all have a different, like I say, ringtone, and there is a PIN code, if you like. There's a code to switch it off.
Yes.
And yet working out what your unique PIN code, I hope it's okay to use this language, I'm just trying to make it simple.
No, I get it.
Is really key.
Yes.
Really key, and can be very, very hard to do.
It is. It's really hard. I don't think that I personally realized that I had anxiety. I think it was a curtail to the eating disorder, but it was like the eating disorder was a bigger monster. And now I can see where the anxiety comes in. And when I'm anxious, it's almost like a subconscious anxious. It's like my body is just in that, like, ooh, we're getting triggered by something.
Yeah, that's exactly.
You don't really know what it is until you, like, for me, it's like I have to give myself a ton of space to, like, sit. And, it's really hard when you're super busy to be like, I need 4 days to sit with my feelings, and that's hard. But I love how you've said that ringtone, because I think what it does then is it gives everyone permission then to be in their bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And, again, like, I just let me say this little disclaimer too. Like, I'm actually going to talk to you a little bit now about what causes anxiety and even some of the things we're talking about today, because I'm a licensed medical professional. Yeah. This is information purposes only. Okay, can we agree on that? So this is my observations, clinical observations, yes, and I'm going to give you details about those. But this is not a prescriptive for everyone, because, as you can hear with anxiety, everyone is so different.
Yeah.
And so each ringtone and the combination of, like, alarm system, what you happen to have downloaded, in your nervous system is slightly different and very different for everyone, and the solutions are very different.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give the information, but generally speaking, information purposes only, and that is that there's usually some kind of biological activation. So, I mean, you can actually just have a hormonal change, including, but not limited to, low iron, vitamin D issue, thyroid issue, and of course a pregnancy, and that will be enough for your nervous system and your alarm system to pick that up and set itself off with your particular expression. So any hormonal changes, we look at those and we try and regulate those. Another cause could be a genetic predisposition. So you might have inherited some wonky genes, for goodness sakes. Now, if you have, doesn't mean you'll have that exact thing. Remember, you'll have your own ringtone. However, if you've inherited a vulnerability, it's very helpful for the people working with you to know that. Mm-hmm. And we look for certain markers with that. So we've got genetics, we've got hormones, can set off your alarm system. We've got any biological changes such as sex drive change, sleep drive change, appetite change, any change in your neurotransmission. So that'll set off your alarm system quick, smart, like that.
I want to say thank you for talking about the thyroid.
Yeah.
Because I had a misdiagnosed autoimmune thyroid stuff. And looking back, I could almost track when my eating disorder really reared its ugly head. And looking back now, I'm like, I bet you my thyroid was completely wackadoodle after I had Ainsley, and no one caught it until I went and saw a naturopath. And not to say that doctors don't, but that feels very treatable to me. So for somebody who's like, I just feel like I'm losing my mind, or I just feel so anxious, or I feel like I just don't know what's going on.
Must go to the GP and have those biology checks, those types of things. They're the first things I look for. I actually won't treat a patient for anxiety unless I know exactly what their biology is doing.
So good. I love it. So good.
Yeah. Trauma as well. I need to say that because there are some neurotransmissions, quite some mechanical things, changes that happen in the brain when someone has had a trauma. And so actually anxiety and trauma can go hand in hand often, and there's a reason for that biologically. So we look for all the biology things, and we sort of try and understand them to the best of our ability, because they're going to implicate what PIN code we use to switch that whole thing off, if I can use that language again.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So what do you think some of the misconceptions of anxiety are? in this, in like, that you've heard either your clients talk about, or that you just see people just being insensitive or uneducated or unsympathetic?
Yeah, look, anxiety there's lots of misconceptions, and they differ depending on what sort of presentation you have. But I guess one of the main ones that I see is that people think they can just, like, there's something wrong with them and they should be able just to control this. And it's like, not being able to turn off your car alarm if your battery's gone flat in the remote. That alarm's going to sound. It just is. And sitting with the discomfort of not being able to settle a nervous system that is active and activated. A lot of people don't understand why they just can't switch it off. Like, it's not as if it's got a power cord that you can just pull out from the wall. There are lots and lots and lots of factors that come together that you've got to get right. It's like building a complex puzzle. You've got to try and get that pin code right to be able to see improvement with anxiety. And a lot of people get confused well and truly before then. And they thought life then makes the anxiety worse. So lots of thinking mistakes happen with anxiety. And it doesn't cause anxiety, actually, but it keeps it going. It's like keeping that alarm system going. So, there's lots of misconceptions about mental health issues in general.
Yeah, definitely.
Anxiety is treatable. But, and even in kids, we see kids typically from about the age of 8 or 11. That will be when their anxiety starts to become unmanageable. And there are some reasons for that biologically, even in children. And so, but kids can be taught to manage anxiety. It's incredible. Yeah. So
beyond medication, and obviously I'm not against medication at all, what are some of the things that you have seen? And this is, it's interesting to me now, just thinking about like learning your PIN code to decompress your central nervous system is absolutely not one size fits all. So I asked this question with kind of like, I know it's not one size fits all, but it's like everything I just said. The things that have helped me the most, and I'll just say for me, because everyone's different. One is strenuous exercise like CrossFit or F45 really helps me, but it's kind of contraindicated in my thyroid. Like, it just kind of taxes my adrenal system. So it's not great right now. What actually really, really helps me is like yin yoga. So like having to sit in a pose and just marinate in that space and like allow my body to release is huge for me.
Yeah.
And also horseback riding.
Oh yeah. That's all of that makes so much sense to me.
So for horseback riding for me, and I've only just gone for 1 week, and I was like, why have I been resisting this the whole time? Damn it. But I think because you can read so many books and you can hear so many opinions about what you should be doing for anxiety or helping like your eating disorder. And I basically have just thrown it all out the window, and I've just tried to really focus it on me. And what I realized when I was horseback riding was that if I went in my head, the horse didn't do what I wanted to do. But if I was in my body, if I was in the moment in my body, then the horse would listen to me because I was actually dropped into my body. But everyone's different. So what are some of the things that people might be able to try, along with working with a properly trained clinical psychologist or GP or psychiatrist, et cetera, that can help to kind of ease that overreacting?
I keep it quite broad here because I'm not allowed to be prescriptive on things like that.
Of course. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. But things that can help.
Number one would be to actually look at and understand your biology. So sort biology first.
Love it.
And then there comes the psychology. So I like to say tackling anxiety, how to tackle it. It's the biology and psychology of management, tackling anxiety. So then there's this psychological component. And again, it depends what bundle or ringtone you have that would really, and like you said, you said some very interesting words, like you had to cut everything else away and drop into your own nervous system.
Yeah.
Messages that it was sending you, and read them and learn to read them and follow your impulses and, preferences, and to ground and soothe and understand and come to terms with and all those things. And there are an array of psychological tips and tricks and methods that we do that is only and all dependent on you as an individual.
Yeah.
And yes, broadly, they are mindfulness. Yes, broadly, they are monitoring your thought life. Yes, broadly, they are stress management. Yes, broadly, they are, et cetera.
Yeah.
Breath work and, all those things.
Yeah.
Broadly.
Yes.
But probably one of the most interesting things for me is to really get to know a person and help them get in touch with what they need to be able to deactivate that alarm system.
Isn't that such a great question? I often ask that to my life coaching clients, like, what do you need? What does support look like for you right now? And it's like crickets.
Mm-hmm.
Because we forget so often to just like, well, what do I need right now?
I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I have to say to my husband, I just need you to hold me. He's like, why? I'm like, I just need you to hold me. So learning how to just, at the very basic, asking for what you need or asking yourself what you need is just absolutely so crucial. Such an important, simple, life-giving question.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any other things that you'd like to share with us around anxiety? Do you have any stats around anxiety? Any stats, like as in...
I'm super nerdy. I'm trying not to be today, but one of the biggest ones that bothers me, I suppose, in terms of stats is that 1 in 10 kids suffer, and 1 in 10 teenagers suffer with anxiety that is significantly affecting their interpersonal, academic, functioning, their function on the sport field, or and that's to me, like, one of my passions is to actually, there's that early intervention and prevention where we can actually teach kids and normalize, by the way, just like we teach them to, clean their teeth or have good sleep hygiene, or, we to teach them how to manage their brain and their nervous system. I love doing that. And even as young as like little 5 to 8 year olds, I wrote a program for it. I'm like, that's it. I'm going to teach little ones about how to manage their anxiety and their nervous systems. So I'm really passionate about it. So, yeah, you know what? Well, 1 in 10 really bugs me, and then we've got different stats for different things, obviously. But generally, 1 in 4 of us suffer from an anxiety disorder.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, where can we find you?
Yeah, good. Well, I'm in Perth, WA. In terms of clinics, so I've got a clinic in Merriwa and in Madeley and in Como in the suburbs of Perth, but we have an online Skype service.
Wonderful.
So Medicare have just released these new item numbers where you can actually access a team online and be rebated. So you have to go and see your GP, and we call them e-clinics. And so you can actually access the team without having to, especially for people in rural or, down south or Margaret River or northern, like, for example, lots of people are close to Perth, but not close enough to, especially when they've got anxiety or a mental health issue, to jump in their car and get out of bed and all those sorts of things. So we offer a Skype service, and you can find us on the website, which is www.masterspsychology.com.au, or you can call the clinic on 9409-6709.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rochelle. We will put I'll put all the information into the show notes so they can have it. But I think I wanted to have you on because I feel like what you're bringing to the world is exactly what you said, which is tangible and meaningful change.
Yeah.
And what was so refreshing about listening to you was that you're really progressive in what you're trying to create, and the things that you're trying to do is not just about, masking or medicating and just moving on. It's about, well, what's the whole picture here? If we've got 5 and 8 year olds who are 1 in 10, or even probably that's like significant. So what about the kids who aren't significant in quotations, but are in the 15 to 25 percentile, And how can we create an awareness around this so that people feel successful in their lives is just so damn refreshing.
Yeah, thank you so much for your encouragement. I love the work. It's very rewarding. And, again, I only started my first clinic less than 5 years ago. I did not expect the enormity of need.
I know.
And yet I'm happy to serve the community in this way alongside my team. And thank you.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do. And I know that you are going to be a change agent and a leader, I don't even think just in Australia. I think you're going to be worldwide. So thank you so much. And again, if anyone's interested in contacting Rochelle, please do so through her website or her office. And again, thank you for your wisdom.
Yeah, no worries. See you, Michelle.
Bye. Thank you for joining me today. If you'd like more information about myself, my journey, my public speaking engagements, or life coaching with me, please head to my website, mishpope.com. If you can kindly leave me a beautiful review on iTunes, I would be forever grateful. I can't wait to connect again in the next episode.